It is a Wednesday evening. Welcome to Memphis Metro Midweek Encounter. This is Pastor Matt, and glad to have you for a few moments joining us here on this platform, YouTube and Facebook. Um, I would very much appreciate you jumping in the chat and saying hello to us, letting us know that you're joining us here live tonight, 6:22 p.m. on a Wednesday. And furthermore, ready to celebrate a little bit this weekend. We've got a special event coming up. I want to briefly remind those of you that are in the metropolitan area, if you'd like to join us, please feel free to do so. But we have been invited to share in a service this weekend at Prospect CME Church in Stanton, Tennessee. It is their homecoming service. There you see the flyer. And I have been asked by this wonderful church to come and share this weekend. So we'll be there Sunday afternoon at 2 p.m. And you see that it's located in Stanton, Tennessee. The address is there at the bottom. It's right off of exit 52, I believe it is. Exit 52 in Stanton, Tennessee. So it's going to be a great time. I look forward to being able to see each of you there, and would love for you to join us. Going to have some great music. That's really going to be the feature of the service. And so we won't be gathering for service at Memphis Metro this week in order to caravan together for our service this coming Sunday at Prospect CME Church. It's number 2. 156 years of ministry, man. That's an institution. That is an institution. So it's my family's home church. My dad grew up there. Siblings grew up in that church. My grandfather's parents, and so it's a big deal to me to be able to go back and serve in any capacity. But they've asked me to come and speak on that day, so I'll be brief, and we're gonna have some great singing, some wonderful worship. It's gonna be absolutely phenomenal. You can bank on it. It's gonna be really good. So we've been in a series entitled Warriors and understanding what it means to engage in spiritual warfare. And so we've tackled some pretty weighty subject matter with regard to this in order to be proficient with regard to what spiritual warfare means. And I started out with some slides the other week, just this past Wednesday, I believe it was, and I want to just revisit a couple of those if I can. One of the things that we talked about was how the enemy works, like what his strategies are, so that what he's after, like his tactics. He's after territory, right? We have to be fully aware how he engages us and what it means for us to defend ourselves and also be on the offense. What does that look like? And so, in a lot of instances, we underestimate the power of the enemy. And in other instances, we're just ignorant of what his devices are. And so we're going to tackle a little bit of that on tonight and hopefully help each of us get a little bit stronger in faith so we can carry out our purpose, right? The enemy is fighting your purpose. The enemy is fighting against your purpose, the purpose of your life, right? You have a purpose. God put you in the earth for a purpose. And so if he can get you distracted from that purpose, if he can get you off course from that purpose, then the enemy is achieving his goal. And so when we engage in warfare, it's about tactics and techniques. Tactics and techniques. When we engage in warfare, it's about territory. The enemy is after certain spaces in your life. He wants you to be preoccupied with doubt, disbelief. He wants you to be preoccupied with sickness and disease. He wants you to be preoccupied with poverty. Those are some of the forces that we're up against. And so he uses those things to gain territory in your life. On Sunday, we went through the 4 levels of demonic assault, engagement in warfare. But there's also the component of timing and how we are targeted, right? Paul talks about these things in Ephesians chapter 6. And he also mentions our temperament. So I want to go to 2 Corinthians chapter 10 tonight for our time together. I'll read through this relatively quickly. It's just a few verses. And so this is the second letter to the Corinthian church. And Paul says, for though we walk in the flesh, we do not war according to the flesh. Here's the reason why. For our weapons, the weapons of our warfare, are not carnal, but mighty in God for the pulling down of strongholds, casting down arguments or imaginations, and every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God. Okay? Every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God, bringing every thought into captivity to the obedience of Christ. Verse 6 says, and being ready to punish all disobedience when your obedience is fulfilled. So he says a mouthful there. So here again, the subject matter, it's not theology light. It's relatively weighty matters, right? So verse 3 says, though we walk in the flesh, right? So you are a human being. You are. And so the flesh is going to work against the spirit. So your soul is in the middle. You got the spirit on one side, you got the flesh on the other side. The flesh and the spirit are diametrically opposed. The flesh and the spirit do not agree. Paul says, no good thing dwells in the flesh. Right? There's nothing renewable about the flesh. There's nothing valuable about the flesh. Challenge is that we put a lot of emphasis on the flesh and on fleshly things in this world. So materialism, there's a spirit of materialism, which really is pulling you towards the flesh. And the flesh is counteractive towards the spirit. And so he says, though we walk in the flesh, we do not war according to the flesh. In other words, like he says in Ephesians, it's not against flesh and blood. You're not fighting flesh and blood. If you are coming against flesh and blood, it needs to be your own human flesh, because you have to put it in subjection. Right? You got to put it in subjection. You have to put it in, you have to die daily. That's what Paul said. I die daily. Mortify the deeds of flesh. Flesh is trying to take you out. Flesh is after an appetite. it has an appetite. The flesh has an appetite. And so, though we don't war or walk in the flesh, for though we walk in the flesh, we don't war according to the flesh. For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but here they are mighty in God. So, this is a similar kind of notion, right? He says in Ephesians, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. It's the same sentiment. For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty in God. Be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal. We don't wrestle against flesh and blood. It's the same sentiment. And so he says here, it's for the pulling down of strongholds. And I'm going to give you a list here in just a moment, what strongholds look like. Casting down arguments and every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God, bringing every thought into captivity to the obedience of Christ, right? Every thought. And so you have the responsibility of casting down imagination that is counterintuitive to the power and presence of God. The power and presence of God wants to show up in your life, but the flesh does not want that. Hey, classmate. And so there are things, every high thing, like there are ranked things in the spirit realm that want to come against the knowledge of God. Here's why it wants to come against the knowledge of God. Because if you ever fully understand who God is, if you ever get the right knowledge of God, shackles will come off your life. If you ever get the knowledge of who God is, you'll be fully free. If you ever walk into the authority and the understanding and the essence of the power of who God is, things will fall off your life. Generational curses will come off your life. And so we have to cast down imaginations and arguments and every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God. I'm going to give you a list in a minute of stuff that tries to exalt itself against the knowledge of God, bringing every thought into captivity, all right, to the obedience of Christ. And so there's another verse here in First John that I want us to pay attention to. First John 3:8, and it says this: he who sins is of the devil, for the devil has sinned from the beginning. For this purpose, the Son of God was manifested, that he might destroy the works of the devil. For this purpose, the Son of God was manifested, that he might destroy the works of the devil. And so the way the enemy intends to keep us bound, that's right, Karen. The way the enemy intends to keep us bound is to keep us in sin. He wants to keep us in sin. And so some people automatically disqualify themselves, like, well, I'm holy. I live right. I'm okay, good. All right, wonderful. But let me just say, we all have sinned. And we all have fallen short of the glory of God. And so John intimates an idea here that if sin is in place, that sin can be destroyed from your life if you tap into the right vehicle. For this purpose, for this cause, was the Son of God manifested. We needed something to break the chains off of us. And for this reason, the Son of God was manifested. that he might destroy the works of the devil. For this purpose, this cause, this reason, Son of God was manifested. In other words, this is why Jesus came to the earth. This is why he came to the earth. This is why he came to the earth. This is why he showed up on planet Earth. This is why he was born through the womb of a virgin. This is why he came, to destroy the works of the devil over your life and my life. And everybody that has been born had the works of the devil on their life. We have one Christ, one. And he was not affected by the root of sin because of his bloodline. His bloodline is pure. That's why we are washed in his blood. That's why we are forgiven through his blood. And so let me give you a brief list here. I want to, you all can type these into the chat so others will get them. But here's some of the works of the devil, right? It's subtle ways. Some of it's subtle, and some of it we don't even recognize. But conflict and division, right? Discourse, like the idea of discord among the brethren, like he wants to sow seeds of discord. He wants there to be discord in our midst, conflict. Because here's what conflict produces. Conflict produces, in a lot of instances, division, right? It leads to division. And we can have conflict, but if we don't have conflict resolution, then we can disagree as members of the body. Hey, Viv, hadn't seen you in a minute. Good to see you. Conflict and division, right? If he can use seeds of discord, right, to come between us, he creates camps. He creates friction. He creates friction. And so if he's creating friction, then we hold offenses towards each other. And here's what Jesus said. If you got an offense with your brother or your sister, what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to go to him. And if you can't resolve it amongst yourselves, then go to an elder in the church who can help bring about resolution. That's right. Go to it. Go to that person. Go to that individual. If you got conflict, and you can't work it out, then submit it somewhere else. And so offenses are created. There's a book. Somebody looked this up for me really quick because the author's name is escaping me, and I read a good piece of this book. It may be Bevere, John Bevere. The Bait of Satan. The Bait of Satan. Somebody looked it up for me and then put the author's name in that and the title. The Bait of Satan. But it's one of its tactics, right? Okay, so the next line says poverty, sickness, disease. Yeah, John Bevere, that's who it is. Yeah. Bait of Satan. It talks about the spirit of offense. Being offended. Some of us carry our offenses around. We carry them. We wear them on our sleeve. And we let people know what offends us. We talk about it all the time. And offenses are works of the devil. He wants to sow discord. Come between families. Come between siblings. Come between marriages. Come between church members. Come between fathers and daughters and sons and mothers. Right. He wants to intentionally sow discord. And so I say poverty, sickness, and disease. So here's the thing about poverty. Poverty is a form of sickness. Poverty is a form of sickness. Now, if you ask me personally, this is not what the Bible says, but poverty is a mental illness. It's a mindset. Jesus said, the poor you will have with you always. And Jesus came. When he came, he opened up the book of Isaiah and he read from it. And he said he wanted to do something about poverty. He wanted to address poverty. But too many of us live in a mindset of poverty. And poverty, in and of itself, is a form of sickness. Now, this is how it becomes a disease. We spread the mentality. When we spread the mentality of poverty, it becomes a disease and people can catch it. People can catch poverty. It can show up. You can start thinking the wrong way. Poverty is a disease. You ever seen the cycle hit generations after generations after generations after generations? Then that's a disease. You know, they tell you because because of your ethnicity, there are certain factors of your ethnicity that set you up for a certain type of disease. Poverty is a sickness and a disease. Are y'all hearing what I'm saying? And so don't be a carrier of the disease. And so Jesus says, I came to preach good news. Who's the first people that he listed? To the poor. The first thing that he addresses when he starts his public ministry, he says, I'm here to fight poverty. There's a spirit of poverty, and he's here to fight it. He came to destroy the works of the devil. Poverty is a work of the devil. Facts. Offenses. So I talked about it, offenses and conflict division. So poverty, sickness, and disease. So any form of sickness, any form of disease is not of God. It is of the devil. And so he said, I came to heal those that are sick, bring sight to the blind, right? So he starts addressing sickness and disease. That's it. Don't be a carrier of the disease. Don't 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 have that gene in you. Don't have that trait in you. It is curable. It is curable. If you have it, it is curable. All right, here's another one. Unforgiveness. Unforgiveness. Works of the devil, man. Work. Okay. This is how Jesus said it. He says, when the disciples say, give us the ethic of prayer, teach us how prayer works. And so what we do is we recite the prayer over and over and over. And that's not so much what he was after. He wasn't saying pray this prayer every day necessarily, but pray in this way with these sentiments, with this motivation. Right? So, our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth like it is in heaven. So he's saying, like, man, things can manifest here. Things can manifest in this realm based on what is happening in heaven. Things can manifest in this realm based on what's happening in heaven. Those two places are not the same. Heaven and earth are not the same place. But he says, you can have heaven on earth like it is in heaven. On earth like it is in heaven. He gives us a reference point. You can bring heaven down to earth. You can bring pieces of heaven down to earth. You can. That's spiritual warfare when you bring heaven down to earth. When you bring heaven down to earth, you are engaged in spiritual warfare. That's why if you're not submitted to the work of the kingdom, you're not working towards his purpose. Two different places. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth, just like it is in heaven. That's spiritual warfare. Give us our daily bread and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who do what? Trespass against us. Forgive us our trespasses. Now, here's the thing. Jesus doesn't have any. He doesn't have any trespasses. So he prayed it, but he wasn't praying it for himself. He was showing us how to pray. Like, I offend people. You offend people. Forgive us for those offenses. I mess up. You mess up. Forgive us when we mess up. And let me have the power to forgive people when they mess up. Since I know I mess up, let me extend some forgiveness because they mess up too. But sometimes we hold the offense and it creates this bastion of unforgiveness. And he can't release what he wants to release because of unforgiveness. So that feeds pride and ego. This is just some of the works of the devil. It's not all of them. Just giving you a little bit of taste. Pride and ego, right? Pride and ego. Right? I'm right. I'm right. I'm right. If they don't ever see it, then it's just the way it's gonna be. I'm right. I'm right. Okay. You are right. If you are right, can you release the fact that you are right in order to get it right with the person? Some of us value being right more than we value being righteous. Somebody put that in the chat. Some of us value being right more than we value being righteous. Righteousness doesn't have to promote that it was right. Righteousness is just being right, doing the right things because of the heart condition. Thank you. Works of the devil, right? Doubt and disbelief. We talked about this a little bit on Sunday, but Jesus got to one of the cities and they said he wanted to do many miracles. He wanted to do many miracles. He wanted to do many miracles, but he could not do many miracles there because of their disbelief. I'm about to help somebody right here and say, some of you all live in communities of disbelief. You hang out with people who don't believe. You read stuff and they don't believe. You listen to stuff and they don't believe. You go to places and they don't believe. You have a community and a circle of disbelief. And Jesus said, I can't do what I want to do here because there's a spirit of disbelief over this place. I can't do what I want to do. I can't. Jesus like, I can't do it. And he didn't mean that he physically could not do it, but he didn't want to break the principle that was in place. Here's the principle. Here's the principle that's in place. You must first believe that he is. You got to bring faith to him. If you bring faith, he can do anything. He says all things are possible to those who believe. And if you don't believe, it cannot happen. It cannot happen. Belief is the primary ingredient. That's why Paul talked about faith. He says the shield of faith, above all, keep the shield of faith. Because the enemy is going to throw some fiery darts at you to burn up your belief. And so doubt and disbelief are real works of the devil. It's spiritual warfare. And so when you're walking by faith, you are engaged in spiritual warfare. When you walk by faith. Here's the last one. It's the Motown group. The Temptations. Y'all know the Temptations. Y'all know all the Temptations. You know them. You know all the Temptations. Yeah, you do. You know some ones that ain't from Detroit. You know some ones that ain't from Motown. They come from other places. Temptations are real. But here's how Jesus said it. Jesus knew that this was one of the works of the devil. He says, lead us not. Like, take us the opposite direction of temptation. Because you got something coming. You got something. Yeah, you tempted to cuss them out. You tempted, I know you are. I know you are. You tempted to fight. You tempted to cheat. You tempted to walk away. You tempted to, yeah, you can bend that tax code just a little bit more, get you some breaks. You tempted. Tempted to drink. You tempted to smoke. You tempted to lie. You're tempted. You are tempted. Jesus said, Father, lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. So for this cause, this list right here, for this cause was the Son of God manifested, that he might destroy this list in your life. He wants to destroy this list in your life. He wants to destroy the conflict, destroy the poverty, destroy the offenses, destroy the unforgiveness, destroy the pride, destroy the doubt and disbelief, destroy the temptation. For this cause was the Son of God manifested, that he might destroy this list in your life. This is not a comprehensive list. There's some other things I could have put on this list. But these are some of the works of the devil. And this is how he shows up. And this is where he wants to live and breathe and reproduce in your life and in your seed. He wants to produce this in your life. And watch this. He wants some of this to be your legacy. That you lived in conflict, that you stayed poor, that you lived in offense, that you never did forgive, that you were all about you, that it was about your ego, that it was about your doubt and disbelief, that you lived in these places. He's after this territory. This is where he wants to live and breathe, and this is what he wants to reproduce in your bloodline. And so he walks about like a roaring lion, seeking who he may devour. And if you're not in the spiritual gear, if you don't have your war clothes on, If you're not in fighting position, then he'll sneak up on you. And he'll take space in your life. And you can say you love Jesus and you can go to church and all those other kind of, you can do all that. But he has a stronghold over your life. And so that's what Paul was talking about in 2 Corinthians chapter 10, right? Every high thing that exalts itself. That's some of the high stuff against the knowledge of God. Because once you understand that the Son of God was manifested for this cause, you won't have to live with that stuff. But anything that comes against the knowledge of God, it is going to attack your life in a way that tries to quench, to dry out the spirit, suffocate the power of the spirit. That's my time. I'm going over. I said 30 minutes. All right, so here we go. Is this helping anybody, everybody? Amen. Good. So this Sunday, we'll be back. We'll be back next week for our regular service. That's not true. That's not true. It's we got some schedule adjustments. But this Sunday, this is what we're doing right here. That's it. Yeah. Homecoming 2024 at Prospect number 2, CME Church. I'm Methodist. I am Methodist. I am Methodist. I am Methodist Episcopalian Methodist. That's what I am. All these newfangled Christians, I don't know what y'all non-denominational. I am Christian Methodist Episcopalian. That's what I am. No, we'll be together at CME, Prospect CME, this Sunday at 2:00. And so our folks know what to do. We're meeting 12:30 Sunday and traveling together. But I would want each of you, if you're in the metropolitan area, please plan to join us. It's about a 45-minute ride from Memphis, and but it's going to be a great time. I'm telling you, it's going to be absolutely excellent. And so here's how you can support our efforts. You can give tonight. You can go to memphismetro.tv. You can give on these platforms. Memphis Metro Church, the $, that's the Cash App, and then the PayPal is also there. You can give tonight if this has been a blessing to you. I want to give you the opportunity to sow. And sowing works against the efforts of poverty in your life. Sowing works against the efforts of poverty in your life. Every time. Every time. And whatsoever man soweth, that shall he also reap. So, you get it? So. And if you need prayer tonight, feel free to text us at 901-428-6053, 901-428-6053. There's a prayer of salvation that's available on our website. Some of you need to visit. We've got previous messages and the like on the website. And it would be a great benefit to you if you want to be an iMetro member. If you don't live in the area, but you would like to connect with us, we'd love to have you. So you can visit memphismetro.tv. That's our website, memphismetro.tv, and our phone number, 901-428-6053. That's my time. I appreciate you joining in and all the comments in the chat. Appreciate it so much. Repost this, subscribe, share, like, do all that great stuff. And we'll be in prayer for you. This has been Midweek Encounter with yours truly, Pastor Matt of Memphis Metro Church. Fellowship, leadership, worship, bringing you ministry at the speed of life. We are